This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Alrighty, everybody. It is Sunday. It's June 25th, 2023. And believe it or not, July is right around the corner. June's about to leave us, and that means we're getting into the thick of the summer, which means after next weekend, we are full steam ahead to SummerSlam. But, of course, before we get there, we have an event that you might have heard of. It's coming up. It's called Money in the Bank, and that comes to us from London in just under a week here, as we are now in a pay-per-view week, or a PLE mode, and we're going to be doing a preview and prediction show with a co-host probably Thursday, and a show is probably going to drop every single day between our regular content and the PLE related Money in the Bank content. You're definitely going to be getting more than your fill of this show. So lots to look forward to this week. And before we get there, though, of course, let's talk about this week. A lot happened this week. And what feels like it's at the front of my mind and at the front of a lot of fans' minds is Mr. L.A. Knight. Yeah, Mr. L.A. Knight, right? And at this point, is WWE forced to put L.A. Knight as Mr. Money in the Bank? Are they forced yet, or are they going to be stubborn? Or, as I mentioned in the past few weeks, are they pretending that they're not pushing LA Knight by pushing him? Or rather, by pushing him, you're acting like you're not? I'm not sure what WWE's strategy is, because if they feel that, well, we don't have to do anything and the fans are going to make it happen, and then at the right moment we're going to push them, or are they legitimately pushing against fans and being stubborn? Again, we don't know. Maybe, again, there probably is some reverse psychology going on here. And the moment that they start to very obviously push LA Knight, do the fans turn and go, wow, well, that's WWE pushing him. We don't want the people that WWE's pushing. I hope not. I hope as fans that when WWE does push him, and I hope they do, and elevate him, that we don't go, well, now it's not cool to go with what WWE wants. We got to go with what we want. You're going to be shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, there are times to do that. This is not one of them. LA Knight is what he says he is. He feels like a megastar. He feels it. He has felt it since he shed the whole Max Dupree gimmick with the whole Maximum Male Models. Since he shed that and he went back to just being LA Knight, the crowd reactions took a while. But even through losses, not being consistently on the show, minimal promo time, again, the match with Bray Wyatt, that was disastrous, more for Bray Wyatt than it was for LA Knight. Even though LA Knight lost, you don't remember that, right? You remember just kind of the gimmicky part of the match that was unnecessary. And so LA Knight has really shined. And really, that Bray Wyatt match was the turning point for him, because it wasn't supposed to do this for his career. The WWE viewed it as a stepping stone for Bray Wyatt, not the other way around. And it has been anything but for Bray Wyatt, who has been MIA for 4 months. And LA Knight has continued to thrive when he says he has no business thriving. And they're continuing to also push him as a heel. He beat Rey Mysterio this week on SmackDown, and he beat Rey Mysterio clean in what was an okay match. Yes, there were some 619 botches. Honestly, no one's going to give a damn about that when it comes to the crowd and the fans anyway. And he beat Rey Mysterio fair and square with blunt force trauma, BFT. And great maneuver, by the way. It does, look, there are some criticisms about LA Knight, or some comparisons. I don't even know if they're labeled, or you could label them as criticisms, more just observations. he does have a bit of an Austin Rock mixture of a personality. When he's talking about on Monday night, telling Logan Paul to take the map and show him where he can stick all that prime, like it's a little bit Rock to do that, and he does have kind of the swagger of Austin. There is something there to that, but I don't care. I don't think he's a direct rip-off or knockoff of either. He may have taken traits that he's seen and implemented them into his own, and that's okay. I don't mind that. He's made it his own. And honestly, I really don't care if he reminds me of The Rock or Austin. Those are good memories. And he's just made it his own. That's the key. And he feels authentic. He doesn't feel like a copycat or a counterfeit. That also really helps. And is he the best in the ring that's ever existed? No. Not from what I've seen so far. He's older, okay? I think he's pushing 40. May also be why WWE is hesitant to push him the way that the fans want him at the moment because of his age, knowing that, of course, he doesn't have a lot of time left comparatively to some of the younger guys like Austin Theory, right? He doesn't have 15, 20 years. He's probably got 5 to 7 good years left. But why not strike while the iron's hot? This kind of stuff that the fans get behind and get behind consistently doesn't happen a lot. And I don't know if WWE is going to pull the trigger on LA Knight with Mr. Money in the Bank, or if they had other plans, maybe Damian Priest or Logan Paul. I still think Logan Paul is a massive mistake, and I explained that many times on the show why. It doesn't make sense on a lot of levels. He's there to just help make the match better, and he will. But honestly, this is LA Knight's match to win. Damian Priest could win, but honestly, if it's not LA Knight, I think the crowd is going to lose it. I really believe in London, the crowd is going to be very much behind LA Knight. London, we are counting on you. I don't care who's climbing the ladder. I don't care. I don't care if Andre the Giant rises from the grave and climbs the ladder. You boo any and everyone that climbs the ladder except LA Knight. That's a direct order. Okay? Coming here. It's directly from the show. That's how serious I am. But this is something that WWE now has to ponder. Maybe they were planning on having LA Knight win anyway. But the crowd reaction on SmackDown, the crowd reaction especially on Raw, that went viral with LA Knight's pop after Shinsuke came out, and you hear Corey Graves say, "Listen to this place. Let me talk to you." I mean, it's all there. The confidence, the experience, the gimmick. He's got the catchphrases. He's got it all right now. He's got it all working. He's put it all together. The machine just hasn't got behind him yet. So I got to say, the Money in the Bank is going to be very telling for LA Knight. That match is about one man. Because when you look at everyone else that's in that match, is anyone else really excite you to win? Logan Paul, no. Right? We have Ricochet, no. He's not going to make the match. He's not going to win. Right? He's just going to do some crazy bumps and put his body through hell, which I respect, but that's all he's there for. You have Santos Escobar. Sorry, he's kind of vanilla. They only supported him because, he was supporting Bad Bunny. And then you have, of course, Rey Mysterio, who, hey, not going to happen. Rey Mysterio is not going to happen. And it's just Damian Priest. Damian Priest is a very strong candidate, but not one that should win given over LA Knight. So it's LA Knight or bust, guys. It's got to be LA Knight or bust. If you're WWE, how do you get around not having LA Knight win? Can you? How? And here's the thing. If WWE does pull the trigger, and they want to then decide, okay, you know what, we're going to take a stab at this. We're going to push LA Knight a little bit, get him into the mid card or upper mid card to maybe touch the main event by the end of the year scene. Fine. But here's what you don't do. You don't change his character. You don't suddenly have him pandering to fans. This is a mistake that WWE often makes. When a heel goes to baby, sometimes what you'll see is that heel totally abandon all of the qualities that made them so attractive to fans in the first place, and suddenly start to pander and bow at the altar of the fans and smile all the time and give them compliments and say how great it is to be in whatever city you're in. And stop it. Right now, LA Knight's getting pops by beating people, by not cheating to win, but beating people after matches. Okay. He's still technically on the heel side. He beat up Rey Mysterio as one of the biggest baby faces of all time, and he got cheered for it. And it's time to strike. So I'll get off the bandwagon, but I have to open with Mr. LA Knight. Yeah. All right. So what else happened? What else happened this week? Well, no Roman Reigns. That surprises exactly 0 people. But we did get more of a progression in the storyline. Not a ton. Kind of a weird promo from Jey Uso on SmackDown. Yeah, it was kind of bizarre. I think at times they speak too much in Uso language and just need to use plain language. I mean, sometimes sometimes I don't understand what they're saying. They need to just speak more just direct to me. But there was passion, certainly. They were fired up, as Michael Cole said. And Jay said that there would be a bloodline civil war, but that he did still love Roman and can forgive him. Well, if you can forgive him, why are we having the match? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of a weird thing to say. He's talking about all this is all about disrespect. I mean, I don't know. I buy it, but I don't. This wasn't the best week for the Bloodline story, I have to say. Weird is the best way to describe it. Jimmy talked about how their entire family was raised and built on respect. And Jay said that they had the entire WWE on lockdown when they worked as a family and called out forces from the outside the circle for driving a wedge between them. And Jay called out Paul Heyman as a snake and said his lies have driven apart their family. So he puts it on the shoulders of Paul Heyman, which, I mean, Paul Heyman can't have a match. I don't even want to see Paul Heyman take a bump. I really don't. I respect Paul Heyman for what he does and what he is. And I don't want this being on the shoulders of Paul Heyman. This is on Roman. Again, you're having the match with Roman. You're not having the match with Paul. This is, it was kind of a weird way to target Paul Heyman. I don't know. I'm not saying they're going to have a match with Paul Heyman, of course, but this should be about Roman. And he's like, oh, I forgive you, Roman, but really it's Paul Heyman. Well, wait a minute. You're having the match with Roman, not with Paul Heyman, dude. Weird way to direct your anger. A bit off kilter. Dare I say it was a small misstep for this story this week? Not ranting about it. This has, and I continue to say, has been one of the most intriguing storylines WWE has put out in many, many years. Okay? But this week wasn't the best. And the promo from Jay was weird. It was weird. It was kind of a weird misstep. That's the best way I can describe it. But moving on here. We said that Jay said Roman and Solo would be taken care of in London and welcome to the Uso Penitentiary, and then they left. So that's pretty much it. I mean, at the end of the show, though, and I'll just talk about that, might as well. We did get Solo versus Sheamus, which was a really good match. And Solo continues to shine in so many different ways and is making himself a stronger and stronger candidate to be the one to take the belt off of Roman when the time comes. He's making that case. He has a presence. He has benefited massively from this bloodline story. Maybe outside of Roman, the one that has benefited the most in terms of progression is Solo Sikoa. And without even really saying a word, I mean, the dude barely speaks. And he's over like Rover. Where the hell did that come from? I don't know. But he really is. And he is going to be a massive star when the time is right. So, we did get after that, though, after the Usos left and they went backstage. LA Knight and Rey Mysterio, as I mentioned, with LA Knight coming out on top. We then got a very poorly advertised, and maybe that's my own mistake of missing this, but the Women's Unified Tag Team Championship match between Isla Dawn, Alba Fire, and Ronda Rousey and Shayna. I know that they confronted them a week or two ago. That is, Shayna and Ronda confronted the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. But I don't know. Did I miss the date in which this would happen? All of a sudden, it's just like they put it on SmackDown. Like, oh, this match is happening now? This is the kind of stuff. When is the last time WWE put out a championship unification match on free TV? I mean, we've now moved past just total disregard for trying to use championship matches to sell PLEs or to sell network subscriptions or Peacock, whatever. And we've now moved into full-blown, no F's given when it comes to championships, big matches. Here it is. Put it on SmackDown. Put it on Raw. It's all about ratings. Okay. On one hand, I understand that. On another, whatever happened to making PLE events feel special going into them? So, that said, the match was fine. I thought the match, did what it needed to do. It was about a 10-minute match with Ronda and Shayna beating Alba Fire and Isla Dawn and becoming the new undisputed women's tag team champions. Now, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn did put up a good fight. I don't think the outcome was ever really in jeopardy about who would win this. It made total sense to have Ronda and Shayna win. One thing I will say that was very concerning, if you're a supporter of Ronda Rousey, listen to the crowd's reaction when her music hit for the introduction to the tag team match. No, like, it was dead silent. It was almost like people were just kind of indifferent to Ronda. Go listen to Ronda's entrance. There is barely any kind of reaction at all. And I sat there, I'm like, what's happening? Now, I'm no Ronda Rousey fan, but somebody with that name brand value to get that little of a reaction tells you they've got a lot of work to do to rebrand Ronda Rousey. And putting, another championship on her isn't really going to do the trick. Character development can happen, and often does happen, at a much better pace without the championship or championships, but I digress. So, the women's tag team champions are now unified. NXT championships are no more. It's just the women's undisputed women's tag team championships. Now, are they going to get a singular belt? I hope. Why there's no consistency across the board with this is weird. I know that Seth Rollins' World Heavyweight Championship and Rhea Ripley's World Heavyweight World Championship do look very similar. It's almost like they are brother and sister when it comes to the belts. I like symmetry there. Asuka's belt is fine. The Women's Championship, the WWE Women's Championship, looks just fine, makes sense. But then you have Kevin and Sami holding the undisputed men's tag team championships, and Ronda and Shayna holding the women's, and yet they have two belts. Why are we not presenting them with one singular belt? Why do I need to see 4 belts every single time they come to the ring? Just a small thing for me, but, well, not small. For me, it's annoying. For many of you people, it's probably just, did I say you people? I don't think I've ever said that before. I don't mean it like that. Isn't that kind of a way, when people say you people, I'm pretty sure that's a way to, like, turn yourself heel. Isn't it? I meant listeners. Wow. Well, I don't know where that came from. All right. I'm going to stop while I'm ahead. All right. We did get then the Grayson Waller Effect with guests that included Pretty Deadly. And, I mean, it was fine. Look, Pretty Deadly liked to talk. I think the segment went on a little bit too long. Pretty Deadly do like to talk. They really doubled down on the fact that they beat 5 teams last week, which was hilarious and frustrating. It did make me want to see Kevin and Sammy beat them up. So mission accomplished, I guess. And I don't know what Grayson Waller, though. What's the end game here? What is the end? Is he just going to be a pretend talk show host for the next, however many months? Like, what are we doing with Grayson Waller? WWE has had more than its share of talk shows over the years. Everything from MITB to the KO show to the Cutting Edge to Jericho's show to Carlito's Cabana to didn't Dean Ambrose have one at one point? I can't think of the name of it. And he had a plant named Mitch or something. Why do I remember that? So Dean Ambrose has had one before. Was it I can't remember. It's something hokey. We have, of course, the Grayson Waller Effect, right? It's just, why do we need all of these talk shows? Piper's Pit, seemingly the original. I don't understand. We don't need another talk show. I'm not a big talk show platform fan. I understand the need. I understand the benefit for it because it can be anything you need it to be. It's kind of the catch-all. Whatever and whoever needs to go on there to kind of explain themselves and bounce their ideas off of Grayson Waller, who does this job nicely. They can do, which is why MITB exists on Raw and why the Grayson Waller Effect will continue out of Magic to exist on SmackDown. Anyway, Pretty Deadly did finally get interrupted by the Street Profits after they started naming off the teams that they beat. And the Street Profits challenged them to a match. And it did not end well for the Street Profits as Pretty Deadly beat the Street Profits with they cheated to win because Prince rolled up Dawkins and used the rope for leverage to get the victory, and the Street Profits lose in 9 minutes. And then that was pretty much it for that. But can we please just call it what it is and say the Street Profits are no longer a viable tag team? It's just time to call it. I don't need to see Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford in a match. I don't need to see either of them turn heel. But I do need to see this tag team dissolved. It's time. And who knows? Maybe Angelo Dawkins is a breakout star. Maybe he does go off on his own and do great things. I know people have speculated about Montez, including myself, because of his athleticism and because of the fact that he has a very flamboyant, magnetic personality. And he is odds-on favorite to be the star, but you never know. And it's just time. It's just time. That's all. But Pretty Deadly get another kind of shady victory here, and I thought it was fine. All right, Charlotte Flair versus Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans, yes, she still works here. Charlotte beat Lacey in about 3 minutes and hit the figure 8 for the quick tap out. This was a glorified squash match. Lacey Evans just can't catch a break of momentum. She can't catch a break when it comes to any kind of consistency, not just winning or losing, but also just in her character. We don't know what she is sometimes from week to week. The crowd barely reacts to her. I think they gave her the Ronda Rousey reaction, which was almost nothing, because I don't think the fans know what to think of her. That's a big problem. When you are a star and the crowd doesn't react to you and you've been there for a while, there's something that needs to change. And I don't know what that is for Lacey. She has always kind of used her military background as a crutch in most of her gimmicks, other than the whole nasty dressing up as like a 1950s housewife. That whole gimmick at first. But outside of that, it's been some kind of military-based character, both babyface and heel, and I just don't know what to do with Lacey Evans at this point. She does well in the ring. She's in shape, right? She has quality. She's good. I think she's actually good on the microphone. I don't think she's great, but she's good and certainly can sell a match. So I don't know what the hesitation is here or the confusion is. But for Lacey, she taps out very quickly here to Charlotte. And that's not a good sign if you're a fan of Lacey Evans. So it's just not. But all right, let's move on. And Sheamus and Solo Sikoa, as I said, I mean, these two put on a nearly PLE quality matchup. The Usos coming out and hitting a super kick, double super kick on Solo was fun. Paul Heyman seems shocked, and then all he does is speak into his phone and say, "Call Roman Reigns." I mean, first of all, can anyone please, if you're in the WWE, for the love of God, and maybe nobody has the guts to do this because it's Paul Heyman, I don't know. Paul Heyman is not using his phone correctly. He looks ridiculous. The microphone is not set in the middle of the phone where the glass is, number one. Okay. Number two, if he actually was calling Roman Reigns and he told his phone to, the screen would light up because Siri is activated. I know, guys, I'm getting into the weeds a little bit, but he constantly is doing this. This isn't just a one-off. Every time something happens, he has to call Roman Reigns. As if Roman isn't watching the product himself. Is Roman not watching? Does Roman not have access to the internet anywhere? I mean, it's whatever. But Paul Heyman, listen, I love you, buddy, but learn how to make it look like you know how to use an iPhone. When you speak, you don't speak into the earpiece. You speak into the mouthpiece. There are two microphones at the bottom of the phone. If you're at least going to make it look halfway okay, speak into the bottom of the phone. It just looks weird, dude. It looks fake. I hate to use that word on this show, but when you're doing things, okay, and this isn't inside the ring related. This is just simple things that you can change that don't make it look so like just exposing that you're really not calling Roman Reigns. So I know I keep going over this, but he keeps doing it every week. Okay, Paul, make it look like you know what you're doing with an iPhone. For the love of God, know where the microphones are. Oh my goodness. Okay. But anyway, really strong main event here with Sheamus and Solo. I don't think anyone would complain if these two cross paths again. This ended in a no contest, though. From what I understand, there wasn't a disqualification of any sort. Not that it would matter anyway, but it was a non-clean finish. And these two again, I'm sure will meet in cross paths once it's at some point down the line. But the match was really good. But the ending, as I said, ended in a no contest. But the finish came across a little weird. Because the spot with putting Sheamus through the barricade was not the best camera angle, but I understand what they were trying to do there, and it worked. It worked. Not the best of nights for the Bloodline storyline, but it didn't hurt it, and I will more than accept kind of a ho-hum, scratch your head kind of night from a promo perspective and in a and just kind of really a non-progression story of a non-progression night for the story. And that's okay. So no complaints there. Really aren't. It sounds like maybe I'm being critical of the Bloodline storyline right now. I'm not. It's a rare, weird misstep for this story. All right. So there were some promotions letting us know that Roman Reigns is going to return next week. So I'm sure the crowd in Lafayette was very excited to know that the event that they can now sit at home and watch is going to contain a Roman Reigns return. Also, the Grayson Waller Effect is going to, I believe, have Logan Paul on it. So that should be an interesting dynamic, actually. So those were the two, I believe, only things issued for the SmackDown edition next week in London. Also, guys, sorry, for those of you from Lafayette, we only got to know that they were in Louisiana in the Cajun Dome, but we didn't know what city. So, once again, Lafayette, you do not deserve the mention on TV. As WWE has told us, you don't, because they mentioned the place, or rather the physical building you were in, but not the city. So that's how you know that they don't feel it's big time enough to put on the air. Again, when you hear just the name of the building, or in the shadow of, or on the campus of, or just the state that they're in, that's how you know they don't respect your city. If you're not the capital of the city, or you don't have an NFL team, you usually don't have a great chance of being mentioned on television. Or if you do, it's very ambiguous. They'll say, welcome to, we're in Kansas for Monday Night Raw. It's like, well, okay, Kansas is, hundreds or thousands of square miles. Where are they? So, oh boy, I love it. But all right. So Monday Night Raw, let's kind of switch gears here and cover the week in review, because we should in a week in review show. Again, not in full detail because we've already done a Monday Night Raw review. However, just to remind you of what happened, we did get Ciampa returning, or Tommaso Ciampa, take your pick. I don't think they've officially killed the Tommaso name, so enjoy it while it's here until Vince gets his hands on it, and then he'll bring it behind the woodshed and put a bullet in its head. But Tommaso Ciampa did defeat The Miz in 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Ciampa looked good. People seemed excited to see him back, and The Miz loses, of which no one seems to really care. And you know what I'm going to do? Because I'm very curious about The Miz's win-loss record. I'm going to look that up here right now. And looking at the Miz here, and by the way, if you're wondering what source I'm using, it's the Internet Wrestling Database. Really insightful and useful if you were looking for statistics or number of matches. So here's how many. This is just WWE. That doesn't include other matches he's had in OVW or DSW. This is just WWE. Overall, he's had a total of 442 wins, 44 draws, and 994 losses. What does that translate to in percentages? 30% of the time he wins, 3% of the time he draws, and 67% of the time he loses. So 2/3. That actually seems low. I thought it was going to be in the 70s or 80s, but this also includes his entire career. I didn't narrow it down by year, but The Miz loses 67% of the time. 994 times he's lost. If you're talking about pay-per-views, he's won 34% of the time, 1% draw, and 64% of the time he's lost. So pay-per-views seem to represent his non-pay-per-view percentages. Close, pretty close. So that is, I bet you, a stat you did not know, because that's what we do here on the WWE podcast. We educate you guys so that you have the knowledge to talk about wrestling with all of your other friends and make them feel like, they have a very smart wrestling friend, right? To impress them. And hopefully that's what that did. Probably not. All right. So we got beyond that, Dom being booed, as always, off the microphone by the crowd. And that was fun. And we got Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville versus Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. 2-minute match. Kaden Carter and Katana Chance win. They did a Karen thing. Just a complete exposure of the whole Karen thing with Chelsea Green, which, as I've explained before, is my favorite thing, but I also think that Chelsea Green plays it very effectively. So I'm torn on how I feel about it. The end of Sheer with Sangha and Veer Mahan and Jinder beat Cedric and Shelton, and also a 2-minute match. and they hopefully should move on. I mean, I'm ready for the Indus year to move on to bigger and better things. Squash matches can only go on for so long. I actually think they go on for too long sometimes. So I'm ready for them to do something. Logan Paul comes out and gets booed, and as he should, and says that he's in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and that's when everyone single file in a parade of entrants come out, and of course highlighted by LA Knight. I mean, absolutely highlighted about with the LA Knight reaction, which is a lot of fun. Matt Riddle versus Ludwig Kaiser with Gunther comes out, and or that match happened. That match ended with Riddle beating Kaiser in about 9 minutes with the Bro Derek. So that was from what I recall, that was a decent match. I'm trying to have flashes of it in my mind. I don't have a whole lot of it, but let's talk about next Alpha Academy versus the Viking Raiders. And this match only lasted about 4 minutes with the Viking Raiders beating Alpha Academy. So, hey, at least the Viking Raiders losing streak's over. So that's a plus, but also the Alpha Academy as a team, I mean, I bet you their winning percentages is probably, it's got to be under 30. I mean, it just does. All right. Natalya is going through an identity crisis right now where she doesn't know who she is, and she was rocked by losing so quickly at Night of Champions to Rhea Ripley, and claimed this time would be different, and it wasn't. It was not. Rhea Ripley hit Riptide pretty quick, and that was pretty much it. I mean, she was attacked by Ripley before the bell and dominated her at ringside and threw her inside the ring, and the ref called for help rather than calling for the bell to start the match. So, hey, I really think that right now Natalya needs something different other than, wearing cat ears and talking about being the boat and all that weird stuff. So this is nice. It just feels like she's being herself, or going through a change, and now I'm on board for it. So Raquel Rodriguez was interviewed, and by the way, on SmackDown, I didn't mention Raquel Rodriguez was ringside for the whole, I didn't even mention that. I don't know how I missed it. For the whole tag team unification match with the women. And Raquel Rodriguez on SmackDown, after the match was over, walked down the ramp, and that's when Ronda called her back. And why Raquel was holding a microphone is very convenient, by the way, but fine. So anyway, she explained that, we're going to challenge you from the titles that we never lost. And then we had, of course, Shayna Baszler say, what are you talking about, we? And that's when Liv Morgan comes out in stilettos. I mean, 8-inch high stilettos. I guess she didn't want the visual of her return being Shayna Baszler looking down on her. So she had to artificially inflate the visual of her being taller than Shayna. Anybody else catch that? Nah, I'm not trying to ruin it because Liv got a nice reaction. And as much as I want to see Raquel Rodriguez turn heel, they did have some chemistry together. I don't like Raquel as a baby face at all. She is screaming heel. But having Liv Morgan back was a surprise, and one that's welcome. Tag team division always needs help. So these two together, I think, are fine for the time being. All right. Let's see. Trish Stratus versus Raquel Rodriguez. Speaking of Raquel, in a Money in the Bank qualifying match. Speaking of, having Raquel turn heel, or should be a heel right now. I mentioned this on my Monday Night Raw review, I remember, but it's worth reminding you. She ragdolled Trish Stratus. That's what heels do. The size differential alone made Trish a sympathetic figure. It was kind of an oddball match, but it ended with Trish beating Raquel in 5 minutes and 55 seconds after it was accidentally, she was disqualified accidentally by Becky Lynch, who interfered and had to retaliate against Trish, who attacked her, and that's what caused the DQ. So this could, again, planting seeds for a potential turn from Raquel, I think, or I hope. Braun Breaker had a promo that was good. I really hope that Breakker does at some point come full-time to the main roster, but apparently that's not yet. Bronson Reed and Shinsuke Nakamura ended with Bronson beating Shinsuke at about 8 minutes with a tsunami. We got Cody, Kevin, and Sammy versus the Judgment Day. And this was about 14 minutes long. And it ended with Cody, Kevin, and Sammy beating the Judgment Day. And I think that was... No, I don't think I know. That was a really good match. Strong, well done main event by all involved. And the finish was done nicely. And I think having the Judgment Day lose here is a rare loss, but one that I don't think hurts the group. And still doesn't really pour cold water on the need to see Dominic Mysterio get his ass kicked. I mean, it's just like a constant need, right? It's a constant need. Boy, when he becomes champion, guys, look out. I mean, that's going to be so much fun. But that, I think, will do it for me for the week in review tonight, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you want to go ad-free, please do that at patreon.com/WWE podcast, or on Apple Podcasts, you can go ad-free too with an ad-free button. You can go to www.podcast.com for your ad-free experience too. You can go VIP there, or get your merch at www.podcastshop.com. Really appreciate all the support, guys. We did crack 2 million downloads total as a existing podcast since we started a few years ago. So, hey, thank you to everybody for the 2 million downloads. 2 million down, and hey, not just 2 million to go, maybe 20 million or 200 million. Who knows? I don't know where this thing ends. We're just going to keep plugging along, pumping out as good a shows as we can for you guys, and see where this whole ride takes us. So thank you, everybody, for listening. I really do appreciate it. As always, take care, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.